Hello anybody, and welcome back to Let's Play Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie's Double Trouble. I'm Mr. Devious, or just Deeb, and in today's episode, we're going to be starting the third world of the game, but first, we're back on the main menu because there's something I wanted to show off. If you hover over a file and press LRR, LRR, LR, LR, you will be able to enter a cheat code. Now, I'm not actually going to be cheating at all, because I'm not going to make this game any easier, but there are a couple of things I want to show off with a couple of codes. A harmless code, if you will. If you enter the code CAOLOR for color, we got the confirmation sound from Dixie right there, and you start the file, we will see that Dixie Kong and Kiddy Kong have merged into one horrifying being. Actually, no, their colors have changed slightly. Dixie Kong is wearing purple, and Kiddy Kong is wearing a more teal pajamas. This is normally colors reserved for the multiplayer mode for the second players, but this way, you can play as them in the main game, and it's just a cool detail that you're able to use. Now, one more secret before we start the next level of the game is if you hold down the X button and press L and R at the same time, it's not doing the thing. Okay, never mind. Never mind that bit, because we're gonna figure that out another time. For the meantime, we are going to be going to, up to this level, the third world of the game, Cotton Top Cove. And first things first, before we enter this water world that I'm not a big fan of, we're going to be going to Blue's Beach Hut. Who is Blue, you might ask? He's a blue bear.
Hello there, Kongs. How are you? My name's Blue. Pleased to meet you. You wouldn't have brought... Oh, I can see you haven't. Never mind.
Now, why is Blue sad? Well, the calendar in his room may have been a hint, but for the meantime, or for the moment, we can't really do anything. Now, before we start the first level of this world, we're going to check out this wall over here, and uncover the level, not the level, but the bonus cave, Bounty Bay. We're going to get ourselves another bird. There's really not a whole lot to say during these caves. I mean, you just gotta wait and then punch in the code and get the banana bird that way. But without further ado, we're gonna start the first level of this world, Bazza's Blockade. Who is Bazza, you might ask? Bazza is an enemy. But to be specific, Bazza is a barracuda. That barracuda, right up there. This is the first fully aquatic water level of the game, if you don't count Stilt Village, which had land portions and water portions. This is actually the first time that the main trilogy of Donkey Kong Country had fully underwater levels since Donkey Kong Country 1. Donkey Kong Country 2 was planning to have them, but never did. Fun fact, that's what Sticker Brush Symphony, one of the most famous tracks in Donkey Kong Country 2, was composed for. It was composed for a water level, but they never made it into the game, so they decided to attribute it to, brambles. Brambles that really hurt. So most of the gimmick of this level is just timing your swimming to avoid the Bazzas so they don't hurt you. I think it's a nice touch, incidentally, that the game recolors Dixie and Kiddy Kong even during the pre-rendered pictures before the minigames. It's a nice touch, and it's a sign of the amount of polish that Rare would put into their games. For the most part, this level, you don't have to go too slowly to get the timing right around these dudes. They're not too bad. They're a little awkward to get around, sometimes. But for the most part, this level isn't too bad for a first underwater level. If I remember correctly, I always remember these levels as being a lot longer than they usually are. But that might just be because I died in them a lot as a kid. A lot. Like, I'm talking about how this level isn't so bad, but memories come flooding back of this being like the first level in the game that actually gave me a fair amount of trouble when I was just a wee little lad. And there we go, we managed to get through there. See, it's a little tricky to get used to the fact that when you press A, Dixie Kong or Kiddy Kong goes up that much. Even if you gently tap it, if you hold down when you do it, you can reduce the amount of space that they actually go up. So that's a good way to make your movements a little bit smaller. Now, I don't think you can actually get past there without getting hurt. Not normally, at least. So we're going to need to find something else before we try to go through there. And by something else, I mean a little something called On Guard. On Guard. On Guard can kill bazzes, and pretty much most fish. So we're going to go back up here, and we are going to charge up the pointy fish to stab through them, and we're immediately going to get bit in the butt and die. That's what recklessness will do to you. That'll put us back here, which is... How far back is this? I don't think it's too far, but I will cut ahead to when we get back up there with On Guard. The danger of this level is it's easy to think you're invincible when you're on guard, but in reality, since this level has so much vertical movement, and On Guard is more horizontally based, it's easy to get a little bit overconfident. Fun fact, they even recolored the palette of the crimp in this picture to match Dixie Kong. I mean, I'm sure they had to, because it was relying on the same palette as they did for her. So yeah, we gotta bash the baddies in this level, so just poke them all. It's also worth noting that when you do On Guard's attack, I'm pretty sure his entire body becomes a hitbox, so sometimes you'll see, like right there, you'll see On Guard kill a fish with his tail, so that's handy. And for our trouble, we got ourselves a bonus coin. The second bonus coin of this level, to be precise. Now we just need to make our way on to the end of the level, and if I remember correctly, I'm going to want to try and finish this level with both Kongs, but I could be wrong. I could be thinking of another level. We'll see. We will definitely have to see. Well, we're going to have to go back up here, get that barrel, and this is a bounty bass. They're like the booty birds, in that they hold treasure, and you just gotta pop them. Usually you need On Guard to do this. But otherwise, you know. I mean, what do I mean, otherwise? There's not really anything else to say about the bounty fish. Or bounty bass. There's really not. So I was incorrect, and this is not the level where you need to have both Kongs at the end. If there is a level such as that, I just seem to very much be remembering a level like that. Now, this level, like the Riverside level, will have a limited amount of barrels for you to spawn, by which I mean you can only have one on the screen, and I assume that the reason they did this was so that you couldn't just flood up the water with barrels or kegs, and presumably, I don't know, crash the game as a result of that. But anyway, with a green flag, we have opened up the next level of the game, and I am going to take a sip of my drink. If you ever do Let's Plays, one of my main suggestions is to always have a drink on hand, because you never really think about how dry your mouth is going to get from talking all that much until you've done it. I mean, if you're a public speaker, you'll probably know. Anyway, it's time for a new level type. Waterfalls, and a new enemy called Crumple. Now, much like the treetop levels, the waterfall levels are mostly vertical based, around 2, sometimes 3 waterfalls, depending on the level. But for the most part, this is what you get. They're more open feeling than the tree levels, which have a feeling of claustrophobia about them. These ones definitely feel a lot more open. I mean, like I just said, open. But as you can see, there's something over here that the bananas are hinting at. And it's mostly just a secret involving coins and bananas. For these levels, you mostly just want to check the sides for secrets, although it does feel like they're easier to miss because you want to kind of explore just around the edges wherever you can reach them, and that will make you feel like you're repeating a lot of the level in order to check every avenue that you can. Now, this level does have some really cool effects, like being able to go behind the background, behind the waterfall when you go on these planes, and going in front of it when you're on that plane. So that's a really nice touch, as are the echoes that play, which you may have noticed when we killed the Crumple and some of the Crimps. It's just really, really good details, and I commend Rare for putting in that much polish. It's really good, and it's befitting of, one of the major titles on a Nintendo platform. It's what you would call Nintendo polish, even. That's the kind of stuff that people are talking about when they're talking about Nintendo polish. Also, for some reason, the Crimps chomp pretty slowly on these levels. They seem pretty relaxed. The music in this level is extremely relaxing. Also, that's one way to kill Crumples, by throwing a big baby at them. I kind of think it's funny, though, that when you throw Kiddy Kong and he rolls, and if he hits a wall, he just kind of sits around and just looks around like,
"Well, what's going on?"
And I don't know, it's just funny, it's silly. Kiddy Kong, I'm not a big fan of Kiddy Kong. A lot of people aren't a big fan of Kiddy Kong, and that's one of the reasons why DKC 3 isn't the most popular of the original Donkey Kong Country trilogy. And in fact, there is like a lot of debate on which one is the best Donkey Kong, and it's hard to find pro opponents for DKC 3. Not impossible, mind, they're just not as common as people who choose the first game or the second as their favorite. And in a lot of ways I can see why, because, well, we've already talked about it a few times. It doesn't have the aesthetic of the second game, and it's not... It feels like a step backward to a lot of people, I feel like. I think that's what it is, and it just... For kids, it might be a little harder to appreciate the more muted aesthetics and muted music that's going on. Some of the differences in the music and sounds for this game might have something to do with the fact that the music, the composer for this game, wasn't David Wise, the one who did the soundtracks for the first two games. I mean, he helped with it, he's credited, but the one who is actually in charge of the soundtrack, I will just double check my notes here for a moment. The composer for this game, the main composer, is Evelyn Fisher, and I think I'm right about her taking care of most of the soundtrack with David Wise offering a bit of support. And I'm not saying at all that, her soundtrack is bad compared to the first two games. Not at all. In fact, she has some really, really good tracks in this one. Or they have some really good tracks in this one that they worked on together. Again, I'm not totally sure of the details in regards to that, but it's just different. It's different than what you got with the first two games in many respects, and maybe that is something that turned people off a little bit when they were playing this game immediately after the second game. Now, as you can see, the puzzle, quote-unquote, when I mean to say platforming challenge there, is to get Perry the parallel bird to get over the bees without killing him on the bees. Because all it takes is to touch one bee, and he's done. He's donezo. He's dead. And if we take him up here, I think we actually may have missed a secret that we could have gotten. But no, we got what I wanted with Perry, which was that. Coming over here, there's just a couple of Crumples that are marching back and forth, and it's kind of scary. Also, there is, there was something up there, which now we have missed. But there may yet be a way to reach it. And by which, I mean, I don't think so. We're going to try to fall down here, and then we're going to, in fact, that was the easier way to reach that barrel in the beginning. So I found the proper way in the end after all. This is a fairly easy minigame. You just gotta make sure that you're actually getting some of the harder to grab stars when you come back into the barrel, or even when you land in it for the first time, because there are some stars which are kind of easy to miss, impressively enough. But Otherwise, not a very hard challenge. In fact, it's quite generous with the amount of time it gives you to get everything that you need. And with that, we have spelled Kong and gotten that taken care of. And now, before we call this level complete, we have ourselves a puzzle. A puzzle in which we need to hit this dude, who we have hit many times before, named Coin. The problem here is there's no immediate back wall to bounce the barrel off of, the keg off of, in order to, hit him. So how do you do it? Well, you're given the keg, of course, and you're also given this barrel, which will launch you across the level very fast. But the immediate problem with that is if you throw the barrel, it's too fast. It goes too fast. So what you gotta do is you gotta hold up so the barrel rolls more slowly, and then turn Coin around. And that's the first pretty clever puzzle in regards to the kegs and Coin in the game. At least in my opinion. I really like that one. It's really cool. I didn't figure it out immediately when I was a kid, but I like it. It's good. Makes you think a little bit. But anyway, I think that's a good stopping point for this episode. We're just gonna pop into Wrinkly's save cave. We're not going to actually save, but we are gonna look in here. Look at all the birds. You're looking tired, Dixie? Put your feet up and save your game. This might be getting this message because it might have something to do with the fact that I've been playing this game for a pretty long time. Let's just save and look at the save screen. As you can see, the band-aid and the shell are marked gray because they've been used on the TV screen. So, that's nice. It's good to have a visit from you, Dixie. All you ever see on television these days is repeats. Oh, I know what it's like. Except I don't watch TV anymore. I pretty much exclusively watch YouTube and other streams. But anyway, I've gone on for long enough. That's a good ending point for the episode. So in the next episode, we're going to be moving on to the next levels of the game, starting with Creeping Clasps. Thank you for watching, and if you want to see more, then I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye!